Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's going to be a little bit different. I'm doing a sewing project and I've got to do it quickly because it's a surprise. Essentially, tomorrow is Well Plant's 19th birthday. She's, as you know, one of my daughters, and she's at university and she tends to hibernate out in her bedroom to do her study and her assignments and all that sort of thing that young adults do. And rather than, with winter coming, rather than go and put a heater in her room, even though we use a heat transfer kit, so we actually transfer heat via vents in the ceiling from the living area where we have a log burner out into all of the bedrooms to take the chill off. If she wants to be comfortable and warm if it's a little bit cold or the fire's not going or no one's home to keep an eye on the fire, I thought I would make her a hooded blanket. You've probably seen them. They're all the rage at the moment. Big oversized sweatshirts with, you know, nice thick sleeves and a hood. So I thought, while she's at work tonight, since her birthday's tomorrow, and you know, Queen of Procrastination, haven't bothered to actually do anything until yesterday about it. So I spoke to Grumpy Dad. Go and check out his channel, Minimalist Terrain. That's his new channel. And I bought 2 blankets. Now these are Sherpa lined, and it's beautiful soft polar fleece on the outside, and it's in her favourite colour, which is blue. So I actually bought 2 of these from not Kmart this time, but the Warehouse here, which is kind of like, oh, I don't know, Aldi, no, one of those shops anyway. So this is the blanket. It is printed Sherpa throw, and it is 127 by 150, oh, you don't want to see that, 152 centimetres by Living & Co. So soft and so thick, and she lives in hoodies. She always feels cold because there's no meat on her bones. So I thought I would have a go, this is going to be fun, at making her a hooded blanket. Now the good thing about this is no ironing when I make this because it's all fleecy. And I've never done this before, and I have a vague idea from watching YouTube videos of people making them, so wish me luck, fingers crossed. And as Grumpy Dad says, let's get crafting.
Please bear in mind that while my grandmother was a professional dressmaker and my mother makes the most amazing quilts, I am more of a, if you can't see the seams and the mistakes, it's so much better sewer. Where I started here is I laid out the 2 blankets right sides together so that I could work out where to start with. The neck hole was essentially what I was doing. And here is me attempting to extend the table, which I don't do very often. It's more the boys for their Dungeons and Dragons games. I used my oversized sweatshirt, which is oversized on me, so will be huge on Morgan, who's really skinny. And around about this time I started to regret my life choices, which I do every time I decide to start something that doesn't have a pattern and I have to actually use mental gymnastics to work out where I'm going. I tried to find something for the neck hole. Frustration levels through the roof here. Okay, this is my way of measuring it. Hold it against my neck or my face and see how it looks. So I used the scales, too big. Use the bowl from the scales, too big. How does this look? That's the lid from one of those wafer stick creamy things that are so good for Christmas. Measured my glasses, thought that was a really good idea, and decided this might be the right one. Waited for husband to get home from the groceries and got his opinion on it.
Considering it's got to go over her head, and that's slightly wider than my glasses,
yeah,
and it's still got a fold, would that be big enough?
I would say so.
Now that I've decided what I'm going to use for the neck hole, I had already folded the blankets in half so that they were lengthways, and I placed the lid on to the blankets in the corner where the fold was and placed pins to mark the kind of track of where I would be cutting. This is a very thick item, so it did take a bit of work with my poor sewing scissors, which give me so much pleasure but work so hard for me. And I cut out the neck hole. I cut in slightly smaller than I would because you have to fold it for the seam allowance, basically, which will make it a little bit larger. And that's the neck done. That was my biggest stress done. Because it was likely to move, I pinned it in place with a couple of extra pins just to be on the safe side, as I was going to obviously be manipulating and moving the blanket around. I didn't want to lose that alignment. Using my sweatshirt again, I worked out the placement for the sleeves and the side seams. So I placed the sweatshirt, what I thought was in the middle, and the neck of the sweatshirt over the neck hole of the jersey. Called him Grumpy Dad because he's fantastic at this kind of thing. I actually thought I had not got it in the right place, but he, using his trusty old core flute, which if you go to his channel Minimalist Terrain you'll see him use for almost everything, he worked out that I had it pretty much dead on centered, but I had to measure it just to be absolutely sure. Now to measure the depth of the sleeves. Using pins and a ruler, I measured down 20 centimetres from the top of the blanket and placed a marker pin 20 centimetres down, which gives a lovely, nice, wide sleeve to slip your hands back inside and allow for seam allowance of 1.5 centimetres as well. I then measured the length of the seam, which was another 30 centimetres, and put another marker pin in so that I knew exactly how far in to cut. I always like to take a minute, if I haven't got a pattern, to really consider whether or not this is what I want to do, because once it's cut, it's ruined. And decided that yes, this is where I wanted to do the cutting. So there you go, first cut done for the arm and pinned, and then I measured all the way down and placed marker pins 30 centimetres in all the way down so that I had a line to follow for that as well for the cutting. A wee tip for the wires: don't use fabric scissors if you're going to try and cut through your pins, because that just blunts a really good pair of scissors. Extra pins to make sure that it's all secure, and that side's done. Fold it over so that you've got a mirror image on the other side, saves the measuring and cutting, and away you go again. side together, and you've got your basic shape. Now you just need to sew your bits and pieces together, add a hood if you want to, which will be a little bit later on in the video, and you're done. Now, I actually started sewing with the top shoulder seam, so wrist to shoulder on one side and then wrist to shoulder on the other side, just so that it was all held in place and it could be tried on my model if I needed, which I didn't. I just had to get it done because I only had a few hours to go. Once the top seams were done, I then started on the side and arm seams, which were all done in one piece because that just made life easier. I was taking out the pins as I went, but it is a really good idea to run your hand down the seams and double check, especially with this really thick fluffy fabric, because if you miss a pin, then your victim's never going to forgive you for stabbing them with a new item of clothing. Also, if you're doing more than one layer, if it's a double layered blanket that you're using, do keep checking to make sure that you have caught all 4 pieces of fabric in each seam. I will admit I did miss a couple of bits, so I had to go back and redo, oversew the seams again once I was finished. Now onto the hood. I did take a little bit of time to have my dinner, so I was kind of running out of time here, but I took the panel that I'd cut out from the side to make the arm and the side seam and laid it out on the table, folded it to what I thought was a really good sized hood, because I know Morgan likes to play ninja and pull the hood right down over her face. Then I cut it to what I thought would be a decent size. And here is where I don't know what my mind was thinking, because I actually used 2 layers of fabric 2 layers of blanket, when really I actually only needed 1 piece. So once I'd realised that mistake, I cut down that piece, neatened up the edge so it was square-ish, and then started sewing it. I started out by sewing the seam at the back of the hood, so that would be the bit that goes from the centre of the back of the neck up to the top of the hood. Just a straight, simple seam, quick and easy. I should also mention that the fabric was folded in half, and the fold will run along the top of the hood, at the centre, along the centre of the top of the head. I started pinning the hood into place on the blanket, the wearable blanket, by starting in the centre at the back and working my way down each side. So I used the seam down the centre of the hood as working out where the centre of the back was, and then went from there, and I pinned it into the hood right sides together again, because that's very important. If you get it the wrong way around, you're going to have to unpick it and redo it, which is going to be a nightmare with this kind of fabric. Then I started stitching the hood into the neck hole, and when I got round to the front, what I actually did where there was no hood to be attached was I actually folded the two edges, the checked edge and the Sherpa edge in, so it created like a top stitched seam, so that was nice and neat as well. Stitch all the way around the neck hole so that it's one continuous seam, and you've got the hood attached and that nice finished neckline at the front, and there we go doing that, and that's pretty much it. Just check all your seams, make sure that you've caught all layers of the fabric into the seam lines. If you haven't, just go back and redo that. Make sure you've removed all the pins, and you've got yourself a hoodie blanket. Give it a wash to get all the fluff off it, and gift it to the person that you intended to give it to, or keep it yourself, because they are so nice and warm.
So, we'll ignore the tissue.
Get that OnlyFans feet footage. Six hair.
Should have vacuumed the floor, but oh well. So, what do you think? Step back. What do you think of it?
It's very warm.
Put
I
up.
could totally... Oh shit. Jeez. Yeah.
It's folded.
Oh my god. I can totally see myself just swanning into a lecture like this.
Or an exam.
What up?
So do you like it? Apart from...
The lack of pockets. Oh my god. But no, it's very warm. It's very cool.
Can you see yourself studying in it in the middle of winter?
Yes. Absolutely. I can see myself rocking up to work like this as well. Just go, hey girls. I don't know.
Do you think that added to the uniform?
Oh, surely.
So happy.
Yeah.
Thoughts, messages for people who've just watched me randomly throw it together with a sewing machine? You're going to criticise something?
Oh my god, Mum.
Criticise me. Go on, I'll have to fix that.
No, it's fine.
But if people have watched this video and think, oh, I'd like to try making one of those, I have sewing skills as bad as her, what would you say?
Okay, Mum, you literally made a business out of sewing stuff, so don't even try me with that.
Anyway, so what would you say?
10 out of 10, very warm. I don't know how like difficult they are to make, so...
You could always watch my video.
Or I could not.
So you reckon that they're pretty cool?
Yeah, I mean...
Except the one I made?
No,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Oh, cool. Alright,
It's
so you
good.
like it? Any last words?
I was going to say subscribe to Wild Plants, and then I'm like, no. No, don't.
Yeah, go on, subscribe to Wild Plants. Subscribe to Minimalist Terrain.
Subscribe to my ass.
Now I have to cut that.
OnlyFans.